You need to understand the gravity of that decision, who you're allowing into your life, who you are allowing to build your life with you, because who you choose as that partner, that is going to have such an impact on if you are elevating in life or if you are stagnant in life, or worse, if you are going to be declining in life. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Mindshift Mami Show, a space where we are embracing personal growth, elevating the quality of our relationships, and reaching to be our most authentic selves. I'm your host, Jazri. Today's episode is all about how to set standards and attract the partner that you desire. It is so important to make sure that you have standards to begin with and that they are aligned with what you want in life. It allows you to raise your awareness and raise your own vibration so that you are literally only attracting people that are on the same vibration as you. We have the power within ourselves to attract the type of people that we want in our lives. Having high standards for yourself literally will repel people who do not meet your expectations. When you are consistent and practice living into your standards, you will notice that maybe the type of low vibrational people that you used to deal with before are not even daring to come near you because they just can see and sense that you are on a different caliber. And it's not to shame or blame anybody. It's just simply a matter of being able to feel people's energy and know she or he has done the work on themselves. And anybody who's on a low vibration is just basically somebody who hasn't done enough work on themselves. So again, this is a space where we are working on ourselves, elevating ourselves so we can be the best version of us possible. Thus, you're going to then attract your partner that is already on the same level as you, and it's just going to be really exciting for when that happens for you. So first things first, we're going to go ahead and get the definition of what are standards, because a lot of the time we hear, oh, you need to have high standards, or somebody has too high standards, and we don't even know exactly maybe what that means. So the important thing about standards to first know is that they are not person specific. Your standards don't change based off who you are dating. Your standards are specific to you. Your standards are the healthy boundaries, values, and principles that you hold and that you use to protect yourself from people and situations that you cannot tolerate. I love this definition so much because it says when you set your standards, you're not thinking about your potential partner, you're thinking about yourself. So let's remember this here. Standards are for yourself. You should be holding yourself to your standards. People don't need to meet your standards. If they don't meet them, then they can go ahead and live their lives. The most important thing to remember about standards is that they are values and principles that you need to remember that you need to hold yourself to, no matter who comes into your life. So, tip number one for setting standards is to first define your own values and priorities. You don't know what you don't know, right? I think a lot of us have a general idea of what our values and principles are in life, but how often do we actually sit down and write them out? The problem is when we aren't intentional about stating what our values and principles are in life, we can lose them and lose sight of them and get in gray areas when it comes to the kind of behavior that we end up tolerating in places such as relationships or even in other relationships like in your work or career situation. That is why it's so important to start off with clearly stating and deciding what are your values and principles that you want to live your life by. This will then help you identify what qualities you really value and want in your partner. Because when it comes to our partners, they absolutely are going to need to align pretty significantly with things such as our own principles and values. Some questions you can ask yourself are these. What traits do you envision your partner having? What traits in general are important to you with the people that you surround yourself by? And what traits do you hold yourself to in terms of being a good person? Because again, when we're talking about standards here, if we are holding our partner, our soon to be desired partner, to a certain standard, it's important for us to reflect back and see, am I even like this? If you want a very faithful partner, are you faithful? If you want somebody who is very loving, are you a very loving person? So it's just important, again, to have that self reflection. And of course, some things are going to be different. If you are a woman looking for a man, there is going to be certain traits in a man that maybe you don't necessarily need to have. For example, a value or a priority for a woman can be she wants a man who will be a provider. She wants a man who will be the breadwinner of the family. That doesn't mean that she necessarily is going to be a breadwinner too, but she does have to think about what values and principles she's instilling in her own life and into her own personality and being to help balance what her desired partner is going to be bringing into her life. Other questions to think about are, do you want children? And perhaps if you already have children, a need for you may be that your partner is good with children. Another important area to look into is your boundaries around intimacy. What would you prefer? What really truly are your values around intimacy? Perhaps you want a partner that will respect your choice to not be sexually intimate until you are in a very serious relationship or even marriage. So think about, without anybody in mind, what would truly be your preference around intimacy in the dating process, and write that down. There are a lot of life skills that you value that you may want your partner to value as well. Does your partner know how to cook and take care of themselves? Is your partner a relatively clean person? Is your partner financially stable? And are they demonstrating that they are already financially stable before you enter into their lives? I wish that I had earlier on in my life done this exercise and written down what my values and priorities were. I feel lucky in the sense that I did have a good idea of what the majority of my values were and the majority of my principles. But if I had been more clear with them when I was younger, I definitely would have saved myself more time if I had written out values around respect and what respect looked like for me and what my standard was around general respect for each other. Because there were definitely instances in relationships where I was very disrespected. And I stayed in the relationship, even though I felt in my gut, in my instincts, I knew it wasn't right, but my mind was too clouded at that time where I did not realize, like, hello, red flag, this is unacceptable. So to sum it up, this first step is really all about totally letting your mind run free and identify all the qualities and values that come to you that you really admire and really would aspire to have in your partner. Because when you let everything out and you let your heart really express what it truly desires, that is going to allow you to hone in on your standards, that when you are meeting people, it's going to be a lot more clearer for you to see who is fitting more into your desired standards versus who isn't. Tip number 2 about dating standards is to communicate openly about your standards. Now, this isn't to say that on the very first date you have to be saying, do you want kids? Do you want this? Do you want that? There's a time and a place for things too. But you also shouldn't be waiting 6 months into dating somebody to be asking these kind of questions if having children is something that you desire and you are dating to get married and have children. It's important to be transparent because this way you are not wasting your time or the other person's time. It's really a matter of respect. And as a reminder, standards are not meant to be super specific checklist must-have items where your partner needs to be some perfect Barbie doll or perfect Ken doll. That's not what we're talking about when we're talking about standards, okay? Something that's maybe not a standard is saying, oh, they need to have brown hair and green eyes and be 6'6" and with a little 5 o'clock shadow. Like, that building out your person like a doll is not a standard. Again, standards are more about your values and principles that you have in life and your boundaries to protect yourself. It's important to have mature conversations around what your priorities are. And you don't want to be in a space where you are demanding things from people. You are simply having conversations, seeing where their mind is at, they're seeing where your mind is at, and then you are going to be able to discern yourself if this person makes sense to move forward with and whether or not they're going to be a potential match for you. So again, by communicating openly, you are asking questions, asking them, do you like to cook? Do you know how to cook? What is your desire for your career path? What are you doing right now? When you're being open with your communication, you're not the only one just speaking. You are allowing them to speak about themselves and tell you and show you where they are in their own life so that you can better discern whether or not they are a potential match for you. I can't emphasize enough the importance to name your standards and call them out in the beginning of the dating process, because honestly, at the end of the day, people are going to treat you how you allow them to treat you. Nobody can treat you any way that you don't allow them to. So you have to be really careful to not let things slip early on, because the sooner you kind of just let things go, I've seen it time and time again. It's such a slippery slope where then they get away with more and they get away with more and they get away with more. And then you're not even yourself anymore. You're just a semblance of some person that's just molded and become whatever it is that your partner has made you into. Whatever they wanted, you have become. And that is not the way you want to live your life. That is not the way I want anybody to be living their lives out here. I want everybody to be having standards and respect for themselves and attracting partners that align with those principles and values so that we can all just live our best lives out here. And this leads into tip number 3, which is maintain your boundaries around your standards and be consistent. There have been many times where people may set their values and principles. They do tip 1, and then they do tip 2 where they're communicative. But then tip 3 is where I believe many of us trip up. And that is where we are not consistent with maintaining our standards for everybody that we meet and date. There are times where you may get so caught up in your attraction for somebody where you start to let some of your standards wither down. And that is a very slippery slope to go down, because as we already covered, standards are there to protect yourself. So the more you kind of let your standards crumble and think, oh yeah, this guy doesn't do this, but that's okay. Maybe he'll learn, maybe he'll grow. That's just brick by brick, you're removing your foundation of protection and standards and principles and values that you want to build your life upon. And when it comes to having high standards, you cannot have a scarcity mindset just because perhaps in the current environment that you're in right now, that it seems like everyone you're dating cannot meet these standards. You really need to have a mindset of abundance, which is the true, real mindset of our world, and realize that there will always be men, there will always be women who will meet your values and principles, who will align with you. The most important area to not have a scarcity mindset in is in your relationships. When you are choosing who is going to be your life partner, who you are going to build the rest of your life with, the foundation for your children and your life, that is not the place to be having a scarcity mindset and to be lowering your standards. You need to understand the gravity of that decision, who you're allowing into your life, who you are allowing to build your life with you, because who you choose as that partner, that is going to have such an impact on if you are elevating in life or if you are stagnant in life, or worse, if you are going to be declining in life. When it comes to relationships and, your standards being crossed over, it's not to say that you even have to necessarily immediately break things off with that person, but it is important for us to raise our own flag and be like, hey, whoop, whoop, you crossed a standard with me. This is a standard of mine. And this is why, again, it's important to communicate our standards to people. So if you are already dating somebody, they may not necessarily know your whole list of standards, which is understandable. Nobody's necessarily going on their first date and saying, okay, so here's my list of standards. No, we're not doing that. But it is your responsibility that when a line is crossed during the dating process, you bring it to your partner. You raise it and let them know. So let's say they raise their voice. We were arguing and we had a disagreement. Moving forward, I cannot have you yelling at me. That makes me very uncomfortable. And I cannot be with somebody who does that, because you are, again, thinking about your boundaries, thinking about your standards and values, and you're envisioning that your desired partner, your dream husband, your dream wife, they are not somebody who yells up in your face, maybe, gets physical, for example. That is definitely an example of a standard and a value where you make it clear, these are not things I tolerate. And there may be a smaller standard where you can just bring it to their attention and let them know that, this could happen one time, but I'm letting you know right now that's actually not okay with me. Change that behavior or you guys stop dating. Sometimes people get into a place where you like somebody and you want them to like you back, so you take away parts of you to accommodate them. But the thing is, that never works long term. As a matter of fact, what is more beneficial to you is the opposite. When people see that you maintain your boundaries, when you maintain your self-respect and your principles, people respect that, and therefore they actually like you more and you are more attractive. So they actually might change their behavior and lift their own standard for themselves, lift their own vibration to meet yours. So I cannot emphasize enough the importance of maintaining whatever those standards are that you originally set for yourself when it comes to your principles and values. You cannot devalue yourself just because you think somebody's cute or you think that they are a high value person that you want in your life. You cannot be looking at your prospective partners in that way, where you would be willing to chip away at yourself to please them. It's not going to work that way. Set your principles and truly abide by them. You have to be really careful with this idea of potential in people, because that's another slippery slope. You have to really see people for who they are and where you are meeting them right now in the moment. You need to be able to really discern and trust yourself, which is leading me into tip number 4, which is trust your gut. Tip number 4 is trust your instincts, but within your instincts also comes your gut feeling, right? There's intuition and then there's your gut feeling. So you need to trust all this beautiful knowing, inner knowing that we all have, and that many of us just need to maybe relearn and get back in tune with. You have it within yourself. We all know when you have a gut feeling, you know when somebody's not quite, but you just may do something where you're just shooing that thought away because you want it so badly to work. No, you have to stop doing that if you want to truly meet a partner that you truly desire and want in your life. When you're getting red flags, it's for a reason. Red flags are for a reason. Don't ignore the red flags. You need to actually look at red flags and be like, thank you. Thank you for that. And then move accordingly. So when it comes to trusting your instincts, if something doesn't feel right, or you're seeing something in a potential partner that doesn't align with those principles and values, aka your standards that you already set, don't ignore that. You need to trust that, because trusting your instincts is going to protect you from settling with a partner that ultimately is not going to help you meet your desired outcome that you want. There are so many examples throughout your own life, I'm sure, where you can look around in the relationships around you and see at least one couple where somebody settled. And it's a very sad thing to see, because you can know how a person was before that relationship, how they were perhaps more motivated and themselves and more, of a higher vibration. And then the moment, not even the moment, because sadly, it can happen over time. But after the high of the relationship, after the high of the initial attraction and that attachment, you see the change in that person. You see, because they are in a relationship with somebody where their values and principles do not align, the person changes. They start to tolerate more negative behavior from their partner. And they're both not happy because there's going to be this unsettled feeling because you are still not meeting your values and priorities. That relationship is not meeting their internal true core principles. So when it comes to dating, you have to look at it as a beautiful clean slate and just trust your instincts from the jump, because it's going to save you a lot of grief and just trouble in the future. I can't emphasize that enough. Believe me when I say you're going to look back and be so thankful that you didn't lower your standard for certain people, because in that moment, you may be infatuated with them for whatever reason. You may be hoping and wishing you want it to work so badly that you're almost willing to set some things aside and hope for the best. No, you can't do that. You have to just trust yourself, have respect for yourself. And I guarantee you're going to look back a few years from that moment and be so thankful that you held on to your standards and did not just settle for that person. And my last and final tip for you when it comes to setting your dating standards is an absolute must. This is a requirement, and that is to focus on self-improvement practices and self-love practices. When it comes to attracting a partner you desire, you need to remember that word there, attract. Like attracts like. You need to be working on becoming your most best, healed, fully whole version of yourself to attract your dream partner. When you invest in personal growth and improvement, you are going to naturally attract people who are doing the same. Because guess what? Self-love and valuing self-improvement, that is a value. So you are going to attract somebody who has that same value and priority in them. And who doesn't want a partner that is always working on themselves and trying to be the best version of themselves there is? You would love that in a partner, right? So that means you have to be doing that work on yourself too to attract that person. Nobody wants somebody who's been the same person that they were 10 years ago. What kind of growth is that? We as humans should be constantly evolving and expanding. That is natural for us. But a lot of people get stagnant. A lot of people, once they get out of the school system, they're just like, done with growth. And they get in this rut where they're just doing the same thing every day for their life for decades. And if that's your vibe, okay, then have at it. That's what you're going to get. But if you're somebody who wants to live your best life, if you want to live life to the fullest, you want to attract somebody who's doing that same thing or striving for that same thing. So you need to be working on yourself, working on your self-improvement. And part of that is working on your self-love. Because the problem a lot of these days is that people are so desperate to find their desired partner, thinking that part of your desired partner's job is to fulfill you and make you happy and make you finally feel fully loved. But guess what? I'm here to tell you a really important and maybe harsh truth, but it's because I love you. You need to love yourself before you meet your partner. You need to be so complete in the sense of just knowing you got you and that you're the best person, like, to you. You seriously have to be like gassing yourself up and be so happy to be you, or at least working on that journey to feel like that, because you are putting yourself in a very precarious position when you are relying on anything external, but in this case, an external person, another person to fulfill you, to make you feel happy, to make you feel loved. Your desired partner is supposed to be supplementary. Supplementary? Is that a word? Supplemental when it comes to that love. Of course, we want to feel love from people. I'm not saying, they're not going to provide that at all. But the problem that I'm seeing a lot of people get into these days is that they are so reliant on their partner providing that for them, that if and when their partner is not able to be everything for them, they crumble. And that crumbling can look different in many ways. You can be unnecessarily angry at your partner. You can be unnecessarily anxiously attached to your partner because you're expecting them to be everything for you. And that's not the case. We cannot be everything for other people the same way they cannot be everything for us. Learning how to be okay being by yourself, that's a good place to start if you are not there already. If you are somebody who is constantly jumping from relationship to relationship or situationship to situationship, you need to take a pause and really ask yourself, why is it that I cannot be by myself? Because that is just a road where you are setting yourself up to get into a relationship where you really are settling. That is just the formula to get into a settled relationship if you are jumping from one relationship to another. Because what that is externally demonstrating is that you are not comfortable being by yourself. You need somebody externally to make you feel good about yourself. Therefore, constantly having to rely on external stimuli to feel good. And when it comes to any external stimuli, drugs, people, food, intimacy with others, to feel good about yourself, that cannot be it. Those need to be all supplementary. You need to feel good by yourself, with yourself, and then those things are just a cherry on top. So to sum everything up, what have we learned today? First things first, we have to understand and define standards. They are the healthy boundaries, values, and principles we hold ourselves to. Standards are there to protect us from people and situations that are simply not aligning with our true selves. That's why it's so important to define what your values and principles are early on. Literally write them out and discover yourself and what truly matters to you. Care enough about yourself that it is worth it to do that activity before you start jumping into relationships. 2, when you are in those relationships, make sure you are boldly communicating your standards. When lines get crossed, you are right there stating your standard and letting them know that that is never to happen again, because guess what? You are protecting yourself. And your partner can either meet that and understand that, or they're going to continue doing it, showing they don't care. And that's when you know to kindly and respectfully remove yourself from that situation, because you are not aligning and they are showing you that they are not aligning. Tip 3 was maintaining those boundaries and being consistent. So if you left old dude because he was yelling and calling you outside your name and he did it 3 times and then you finally left, you better not be going back to him. You need to remain consistent with your boundaries, because that is self-trust. And every time you go back to somebody who has shown you time and time again that they don't care about your values, they don't care about your standards, you are doing a disservice to yourself. You are saying screw you to yourself. You're saying okay to this person and saying screw you to yourself. And damaging your own self-worth is the worst thing you can do, which is why we go into trusting your instinct. So we're going to trust ourselves. We're going to love ourselves by trusting ourselves. You're going to trust your gut instinct. You're going to trust your regular instincts, your intuition. What a beautiful thing that our bodies and our minds love us enough that we have these innate gifts where we can feel when something ain't right. You just feel it when it ain't hitting right. There's something smelly going around in this situation here, in this relationship. Something ain't feeling right. Thank you, body. Thank you. I love you so much for letting me know something's up. Now I'm gonna love you right back and exit this relationship, okay? And that is why, again, our final tip is to cultivate and grow that relationship with ourselves, where we are trusting ourselves, where we are loving ourselves, we are putting ourselves first, because ourselves are always gonna want the best for ourselves. So we have to catch up with that. A lot of us have been kind of removed from trusting ourselves when it comes to our past. Everybody has trauma. You may have been taught to go against what you truly felt as a child. So a lot of us have to kind of relearn this and reconnect with our bodies and this inner knowing about just always knowing what really is truly best for ourselves. You may have been taught to just do for other people, become a people pleaser, look for love outside. But guess what? It's all lies. It's all inside here. So the better you work on self-improvement and growing your self-love, true self-love, and getting back into flow with yourself, the easier it's going to be for you to just spot BS from a mile away, not even entertain BS that is not meeting your standard, and love yourself and attract somebody that is on that same vibe, that same journey as you. They want to work on themselves. They want to do better. They are doing better. They're showing it. They're not just all talk. They're actually action, and you can see it in their lives and how they're moving. And you guys are just going to meet each other and elevate more in life and just bring out the best in each other and learn and grow. It's not to say that any relationship is perfect and that there's not fights and that there's not, areas that we can all work on. We will always have that, but you're going to be at a place where you guys are going to be able to work with each other, work through things because you truly care about each other. You truly care about yourselves. And one person isn't doing all the hard work of the relationship, doing the heavy lifting while somebody else is chilling and being complacent. Okay. That's not what you want. Your desired partner, your dream partner is somebody who's going to meet you where you're at. You both love each other and care about each other unconditionally, but you both love and care about yourselves too, so that you're not seeking from each other something that we're really supposed to be seeking from within ourselves. All right, guys. So with that being said, thank you so much for being here today. I hope you've got some helpful nuggets out of this. Let me know in the comments below what your principles and values are. I would love to hear what your standards are when it comes to dating, what you want in your desired partner, what values and principles are important to you in life, so that we can help cultivate these really important things to uphold together and help attract your desired partner to your life. So thank you so much again, and I will see you guys in another episode. Take care.